Hello guys, and today when President Zelensky has been addressing NATO leaders, CEOs of top militech companies in Ankara, hundreds of Ukrainian drones were working in the skies of the Russian capital Moscow, and perhaps this is the best proof of the words of the Ukrainian president that the resilience and creativity of the Ukrainian armed forces and your support help us destroy the most important myth of the Kremlin, that they have a safe strategic rear. This was something that Moscow believed in for decades, if not centuries. But Ukrainian drones, our ability to use the size of the enemy against them, help us defeat Russia. And actually, yesterday, the fact that we destroyed the last oil refinery in Russia, in Omsk, more than 3,000 kilometers away from Ukrainian border, only proves that despite all the efforts, the Russian army, the Russian air defense keep failing. And right now, the size of the Russian Federation plays against it. And hundreds of drones in the skies of the Russian capital also proves this fact. And more bad news for Russia, because oil prices keep falling. You know that for quite a long period of time, Putin did have a window of opportunities. As the war in Iran continued, the prices were skyrocketing. But still, Russia did not enjoy it to the fullest because we kept implementing our drone sanctions on their export terminals and oil refineries, which of course prevented them from selling everything they wanted. And right now, the price for the Russian oil is below $40 per barrel, which is literally nothing for the already negative federal budget of the Russian Federation. So let's have a closer look what is happening right now with the Russian Federation and why it is so important for NATO and Ukraine to support each other. My name is Anna, I'm from Ukraine, I'm in Ukraine, and if you want to see the defeat and demilitarization of Russia that has already started, and we all see that, subscribe and share these videos to spread the truth and demonstrate your solidarity with Ukraine. Today, President Zelensky, I'm sure, was honored to address a lot of NATO leaders and various representatives of militech companies that perhaps also wanted to listen to him. Because today, Ukraine is definitely the most experienced country that fights on the side of NATO and democratic countries. This is why I believe that support, exchange, and cooperation is vital not just for us but also for the NATO countries. And somehow I do have this sense that more and more of the European leaders, North American leaders understand this idea, and maybe one beautiful day they will also lose the fear and finally invite Ukraine to NATO. Because as President Zelensky said, and let's be honest, right now we are the most experienced country in the 21st century warfare. Of course, Russia and China and North Korea also have their experience, but I'm not sure you see them as allies. Anyway, these months, especially 2026, have clearly showed that Russia lost its strategic rear. This is the phrase that they loved using, describing Russia as the largest country in the world that definitely does not need any new territories, and that these territories either hidden behind the Urals or protected by air defense, because to travel deep inside Russia you need to cover a lot of thousands of kilometers, will forever protect them. But slowly and very confidently we start ruining this myth. And I'm sure you cannot even imagine what influence this has on the apolitical Russian population. They are totally devastated. It is way worse than the Ukrainian Kursk operation or some other things, maybe spiderweb, because it was either about bordering with Ukraine regions or some very military things. And now understanding that thousands of Ukrainian drones cover not just the European part of the Russian Federation, but now travel to Omsk, Chelyabinsk, Cheboksary, Tatarstan, Bashkortostan, is something that they literally cannot accept. Because, again, even in this very difficult period of the Second World War, these territories were totally safe, but not anymore. And the fact that during this NATO summit that begins in Ankara, 400 of Ukrainian drones were reported working in Moscow, the capital of the Russian Federation, also shows the progress of this war, and it's not the way Putin imagined it. The progress is now taking place on the Russian side. This is one of the reasons why JD Vance asked Ukraine to remain defensive and not go offensive. What a change in the tone of conversation. We all know that Ukraine fights according to the rules of war, but we also know that any agreements with Russia do not work. We've been signing them for the previous 300 years and it didn't work out. We all remember Budapest Memorandum. We remember a lot of things, even signed by Vladimir Putin personally. It doesn't work. The only working peace plan is to keep demilitarizing them, ruining the idea of this safe strategic area. Again, during these months, we travel 3,000 and some say even 4,000 kilometers without any results of the Russian air defense. And tons of Russians ask this question: what is wrong with their air defense? I'm sure it only protects Putin, his bunkers. The priority is very different than the population expected. Plus, again, they were totally unprepared for the special military operation now on the territory of Russia, and not just on a bordering with Ukraine territory. Just look at this progress. 2023, we were grateful to survive. Then we are testing this bordering with Ukraine, Russian regions. Then we are reaching deeper. Then finally the capital of the Russian Federation, and now Omsk. Look at the map and you will be surprised. Actually, another important thing that we do not talk a lot about, and as an ordinary Ukrainian, I know more about drones than maybe some experts in some different countries. Drones cannot fly directly. They do need to choose different ways to avoid Russian air defense, different radars. So if this direct distance between, let's say, Ukrainian border and Russian Omsk is close to 3,000 kilometers, it is very likely that the drone covered 4,000, avoiding air defense radars, successfully avoiding. Plus, we are talking about hundreds and thousands. So today, 400 drones in Moscow. That's unbelievable, and of course, any other normal country would long ago begin the negotiations. And Putin is obsessed with the idea of this war. He clearly connects his future to the results of this war. Another reason why we need to win it and destroy his regime. And that's why he keeps planning how to destroy Ukraine while destroying the federal budget, and everyone in Sberbank, everyone in the central bank are frightened. And they did have some hopes on oil prices, and they thought that maybe they will remain high. And today, less than $40 per barrel of the Russian oil. And this is deadly for the federal budget that lacks more than 6 trillion. 6 trillion was the last figure they shared openly, then they decided to hide the numbers. So you can imagine it is way worse. And Russia also sells a lot of oil. They now sell all of the oil they extract, they mine. And you can guess why? Because they don't have normal oil refineries working. 9 out of 9 of Russia's main large oil refineries aren't working, including the one in Omsk that their propaganda constantly used as a proof that no matter what, at least one largest will continue operating because it's very far away in the strategic area. And now, again, repeating the words of President Zelensky, Russia lost the idea, Russia lost its strategic area. And it is a very big victory in this war that I will ask you to share, to spread this truth, because we need to develop our strategies, to develop our plans, to cooperate based on the realities on the ground. Putin loved repeating this phrase, and the reality on the ground is that Russia lost its strategic depths. Russia lost its strategic area. Russia always thought that their big size is something that guarantees them security, stability, and a possibility to produce oil and weapons. No, not anymore. The 21st century warfare and our desire to survive, to win, to protect our motherland, to save our children creates miracles, same as your support. And if you support Ukraine in NATO, drop a comment. Write this phrase. It will mean a lot to me personally, and also this will persuade YouTube and some people reading the comments, algorithms, Google, that there are thousands of good people who understand that Ukraine needs NATO, but thank God, after 4.5 years of extremely difficult and exhausting war, NATO also needs Ukraine because we grew stronger, better, and more experienced. And I'm sure more to come. Subscribe to witness that together, and do check my new channel Anna Danilchuk for longer weekly conversation. And of course, follow me on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Discord, Substack. You will find the links in the description, same as the link to the merch shop, where we have a lot of beautiful presents, t-shirts that turn you into the ambassadors of Ukraine. And I somehow believe it is good in the world of chaos to remain resilient, to stand together, and to see the collapse of the Kremlin regime. Share, love you very much, and thank you for all the friendship and support we feel here. Slava Ukraini!